Okay, thanks, Nick. And yeah, appreciate folks taking the time to hop on the call. This will be pretty sort of informal and conversational, but we'll just have a little bit of a Q&A discussion with Bill and Rachida as the new senior staff members on the team. Get to know them a little bit and let them get to know you as the members. And to sort of tee this up, I'll just talk a little bit about our context. Um, over the past several months, CPCNH has completed a reorganization of some staff functions, really focused on strengthening our core finance and power operations roles. Um, and so I'm going to pull up an org chart just to orient us around that a little bit. But to tee that up, these new staff members that we'll be chatting with today really represent new executive leadership that's focused on finance, power operations, and as we complete this year and move into 2027, we're going to continue to build depth of capacity in these areas as we really focus on maximizing the value of the portfolio and the value that CPCNH can deliver for our members and customers. So within this structure, we really now have the capacity, the organization to execute on some of our key strategic initiatives to really measurably improve our competitive position and value. So I'm going to share my screen briefly. Let's see. And perhaps somebody can give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Bill's nodding. Okay. So this is the organization chart for CPCNH. Of course, ultimately, we are accountable to our 60 to 70 member cities, towns, and counties who elect our board of directors, who are responsible for hiring the executive and providing general control and oversight of our finances, our rate setting, and the organization as a whole. Members and board make up our oversight committees. And then within this structure, we've really organized around 4 departments. Member services, led by Jacqueline Kaspari, who's out today, which really does a lot of different things, but also provides cross-departmental support. And then, Dina Dennis leading regulatory and legislative affairs on the policy and public advocacy side of things. Today's discussion is really focused on the core business functions. Rachida Mahrouda as our new director of finance and her responsibilities within that domain, and then Bill Bullock on power operations and within that domain. So this is just a quick snapshot to get a picture of the organization. And with that, I'll go ahead and intro Rachida and Bill. So bear with me one moment. Okay, so starting with Rachida. Welcome, Rachida. We're really glad to have Rachida Mahrouda joining us as our Director of Finance. She started on June 15th, so it's been just a hair over 2 months. And Rashida's background, she's got more than 15 years of experience in public agency, transportation, and utility finance. She specialized in long-range budgeting, forecasting, capital planning, debt management, and strategy. And Rachida worked at the Massachusetts Port Authority for a good while. This is the public agency that owns and operates the airport, the port, and tunnel and other public infrastructure down in Boston. And in that role, Rachida managed a $3.8 billion capital program, led bond issuance and rating agency engagement, and oversaw financial planning while serving as an assistant treasurer. And more recently, Rachida had some utility experience working at New Hampshire Electric Co-op, and she's finishing up her MBA in business intelligence. So welcome, Rachida.
Thank you, Henry.
And then Bill, brief bio on Bill. Bill started less than 2 weeks ago on August 10th as Director of Power Operations, and Bill joined CPCNH having about 25 years of experience in power generation, energy supply, and energy storage. He started out his career as a power plant developer responsible for engineering, financial analysis, and contract negotiations for major power plant development and construction. And he's worked at both investor-owned utilities and public power utilities on the efficiency and demand side program, including some work developing battery projects, which we may discuss, and also as a director primarily responsible for power supply for municipal utilities. And Bill has a BS in mechanical engineering from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, Master of Engineering from Illinois Institute of Technology, and an MBA from Columbia. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Henry. Sorry for all those syllables in this.
Right. So again, we'll make this conversational. I'm just going to ask a couple questions kind of to facilitate a dialogue, and then we're looking forward to having, members chime in and ask your own questions and maybe share a little bit about your perspectives and interests as well. But yeah, Rachida, maybe you could just kick us off, tell us a little bit about the path that led you to CPCNH and maybe some of the experiences in your background that you think will be valuable in your current role.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So you covered most of my experience, and I'll just gonna give a little bit of background. I spent most of my career in public sector finance, which just started with Mass Health, and then kind of transitioned to Massport, where I spent a little bit over 15 years. Most of people know Massport as Logan Airport, but Massport owns and operates several other airports in Hanscom and Port of Boston. So I was there. I started as a financial program manager, assistant treasurer, um, and then what's interesting is that my role really had two sides, and I'll get to how that relates to CPCNH experience. So one of the side was the traditional public finance. So I worked on bond issuances, capital planning, investments, grants, and also a big part of my job was helping ensure those projects were financed responsibly. And that's one of the goals with CPCNH, being able to explain the numbers clearly and also whether I mean, it is to investors, auditors, or stakeholders, which are our members. So the other side from my past experience was also the energy. When I worked at Massport purchased its own electricity and natural gas. So we had a small portfolio. It's about 30 million-ish dollar portfolio. So that it kind of gave me experience with energy procurement, hedging, reporting, and also working within the New England energy market. So after Henry mentioned, after Massport, I spent a little bit of time at the New Hampshire Electric Co-op, and I felt that was a really good experience. It provided me with firsthand appreciation of the member-owned utility model. That was something wasn't familiar with in the past. So, which it just shows how differently, some of the organization really think about accountability and service. And when you think about it from the public sector side, like Massport itself, when I worked there, they are self-funded, so they rely on the revenue they generate. And I just felt that there is a connection between Massport, CPCNH, or the co-op where I spent a little bit of time. So when if I had to pick really one thing that's most relevant to this role, I would say that I spent years working on organizations that have to be financially self-sustained and transparent and able to explain some of these numbers. And I feel that um, this is where this is really where like the past experience with the current role kind of go together. And I just and that's really like the mindset that I feel I'm bringing to CPC and just having that public experience in finance, and also having the thinking about, we are accountable to our members and our partners. So and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rashida. Yeah, it's a great sort of overview. And yeah, we certainly appreciate the alignment, and you're coming sort of ready in that public member service mindset, which I think maybe applies on Bill's side as well. But yeah, Bill, why don't you jump in, and if you could tell us anything you'd like to share about your career path that brought you to CPCNH and any experiences that you think are going to be valuable in this new position.
Sure. So I have an engineering background. I really enjoyed building assets, and I've done that in a lot of different roles in a lot of different places. So I understand where the power is coming from. That experience gave me a very good foundation in understanding all the ways that you convert one form of energy into another, primarily electricity. Um, And, I worked as I was developing power plants, I really got interested in the financing of them as well, because I found that even if you have a great idea and a great project, it doesn't happen unless you can finance it and it makes economic sense. So, I went to business school, was working on financial models for power projects, and helping them get the funding they needed to be developed. Um, and from there, I got interested in energy efficiency as well, because energy efficiency is kind of the least cost way to meet a power need, if you do it correctly. And from there, I got involved in public power. So public power first with the Massachusetts Municipal Wholesale Electric Company, which is sort of similar to CPCNH, but they primarily serve municipal entities. And they own power plants, they own batteries, they owned wind farms, solar plants that supply to all of their members. And then from there, I actually wanted to see what it was like. Like, I got intrigued by public power because it was lightly regulated because it is locally governed. So you do have the control over the organization, but you do not have onerous regulation. Um, and From there, I was working at Reading Municipal Light Department in Massachusetts. They're very similar in size to the amount of power that they consume. It's about 175 megawatt peak load. So the CPCNH is a bit bigger, but not an order of magnitude bigger. And From there, I was recruited into Rochester Public Utilities in Minnesota. They're also a municipal entity, very integrated with the city of Rochester, home of Mayo Clinic. And there, the load is higher. It's about 300 megawatts. Not a great load factor because Mayo Clinic is basically open. They're the biggest customer, and they're basically open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. But again, it's a very similar scale to CPCNH as far as the supply of energy they need to procure. And that includes RECs. I've built their 100% net renewable resource plan, that will be in effect in 2030. And that relies on some battery projects as well as traditional peaking assets and contracts with wind farms that are about 250 megawatts worth of wind generation. But with that, the opportunity to 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 go to CPCNH, it keeps me in the public power space. I really believe in the model because I've said this before that in investor-owned utilities, you have a tension between the investors and the customers, and in public power, that tension does not exist because the customers are the stakeholders, the only stakeholders. So there's no tension between it's not a zero-sum game. You try to get the lowest cost. We're a nonprofit, and the idea is to deliver value to the customers. And with that, we can look at an all of the above strategy and meeting the resource needs of the towns that we serve. And I really believe in the model, and I know you must as well because you're volunteering for the board, and help deliver the energy to your communities. And I'm glad to be here and glad to be a part of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you sharing all that and giving that context and background. And I'll pivot back to Rachida and just ask, you've been here a couple months, 2 months or so, and have, gotten oriented to our committees, our board, dove in and sort of are whipping us into shape with our financial policies and controls. So we appreciate all of that. And as you get, acclimated, wonder if there's anything that you're most excited to dig into or help strengthen as director of finance.
Yeah, thank you. There is when I started, the first thing I wanted to look into was the internal financial controls, and not that there weren't any, but I wanted to, that was my focus point, just because we work, the plan is to look into financing options in the future, and to be able to do that, you'll need to have better financial controls policies, and that was kind of my first step, as you know. So I developed a number of policies, and the other thing, as a look ahead from now, like the first thing that comes to mind as next, it will be member reporting. I just feel that everyone needs to be able to pick up whatever, like the member reports that we provide, and be able to find the answers that they have without having to reach out to anyone. They should be able to clearly see what they are contributing, what they are receiving, and how costs are allocated. So I feel that there is progress, and there is still more work to be done. And honestly, that's one of the areas I'm most excited about, and I care about. The second one I would say is the financing. So we started with the policies, with the reporting, and I feel that financing is very important, because we are moving from a startup organization to a mature, growing organization, and I feel that financing should be as just as important as the internal controls. So we purchase power on behalf of our members, and what that requires working capital. So the cost of that capital ultimately affects what the members pay. So it's important that we are financing the organization as efficiently as possible, and that also the part of the role that feels most familiar to me because of my experience in the bond market, and the planning, whether it's a budgeting. So I just felt that draws directly on my background in public finance. Um, the other the other thing that comes to mind is the budget. So I know we're currently building the 2027 budgets, and that's an opportunity for us to make sure our resources are aligned with the coalition's priority and also future growths. So um, it all comes back to one idea, like the community power only works if members can clearly see how it's working. So basically, like it's part of what keeps the model strong over long term, and that's one of my goals, is just make sure that, and the financial controls, the financing, the budgeting, and just being as transparent as possible.
Excellent. Yeah, well said all around, and excited to work with you on all those fronts. So thank you, Rachida. And yeah, Bill, sort of same question to you. You haven't been here quite as long, and I don't think it's been maybe 10, not quite 10 business days or so. But yeah, you're sort of drinking from the fire hose, meeting with the power operations team, a number of the different staff departments and whatnot. And yeah, is there anything you'd like to share about areas you're most excited to dig into, learn more about, or work on as you get established here?
Yeah, so I jumped in running. It is, I know Rashida has done a great job in putting those policies together. So it is a good start to see that those policies are in place now. Uh, and my role is to also help control risk, which will ultimately affect our financing costs. So we've got to be sure, Rashid and I are an important part of the team in keeping, the costs to members as low as possible, making sure we have a robust source of energy, and identify opportunities where we can reduce costs, and also contain the risk in a prudent manner. Uh, I understand that there is strength in numbers, right? The more scale that we have by serving members, the more ability we have to find the best sources of energy and to deliver those and contract those as necessary. Also, I'm looking forward to leaning on my early career in doing some projects where it makes sense that can deliver value, whether it be batteries or other projects that we can build and own ourselves. That way, it cuts out some of the additional costs when you bring in a third party. It's probably early now to do that, but I'll be looking for opportunities for that. Working my network of developers and equipment suppliers to see what we can where we might be able to work with your communities to cite some projects and also provide some additional benefits like batteries can be used for to power shelter during the long outages, things like that, where we can really uh, have a dual use for those kinds of assets that can provide additional resiliency to the communities. But I think that's the great nexus of what we're doing, where we're joining together in order to benefit all. With that,
Yeah, no, that's great. And then sort of understanding, there's sort of like Rachida talked about, there's some fundamentals on the controls, the financing, the budgeting, the reporting, things of that nature. And as we sort of become more of that mature institution over time, and then with that comes the ability to finance and develop these projects. But maybe Bill, you could just elaborate a little bit. I understand, I think with MWEC in Massachusetts, you were involved in building some battery projects for municipal utilities, and maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your experience there.
yeah, sure. So it really shows the benefit of joint action with when the communities joined together. We were able um, to run an RFP for batteries, and we were able to yield much better results than we would have if each individual town had gone out for their own, because we were able to do a one procurement, and it presented an opportunity to these battery companies that not a single town would bring to them. So by combining forces and procurement, we were able to get very advantageous contracts for batteries with customers, where the municipal utilities, and they were able to do that to reduce their costs. They were participating in the ISO market. So that they were meeting the capacity obligation that these members had. And with that, they were able to monetize and reduce their energy bills overall. So it was, I look for, I know it's a slightly different model because the infrastructure is owned um, by the investor-owned utilities primarily and the co-op. But there are ways that we can enter the such assets into the market and take advantage of the benefits they deliver.
Great. Um, so I could keep asking questions, but we've done about 25 minutes, and I'm happy to maybe open up the floor. We've got folks from a number of different towns, and we'll welcome you to unmute or turn on your camera if you'd like. I think it'd be, I know Bill and Rachida are happy to meet you all and also hear from you about your sort of perspectives and interests. But do we have anything in the chat, or do we have anyone on the line curious to make any comments or ask any questions they'd like to have us discuss? And I have a couple more. A question I could go back to if need be.
Nothing in the chat at the moment.
Carol Schutte here. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. Welcome on board, both of you. I look forward to meeting you both. We've really needed your skill sets, and it's a welcome step forward. So thank you very much. And Bill, maybe we should talk about IIT. I was a director of materials for IIT Research Institute for a while, but not in Chicago.
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you, Carol. Chris, you turned your camera on, but maybe that was just to show your face. Oh, you're on mute.
Just being friendly, I think you both will represent the organization very well. So pleased to have you on board.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, Bruce.
I also am having a hard time figuring out how to raise my hand. I had a question for Bill. Peterborough is about to make use of our discretionary reserve fund, which will total about $209,000 by the time this current rate period ends in a month, or at least the reporting of it comes through. One of our projects is putting solar and batteries on a fire station that's being constructed right now, and potentially taking advantage of the municipal demand response program from Eversource. So I'm trying to help my town figure out the mix between solar and batteries and participation in demand response. Is this something that we could have a talk about at some point coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. We could. That it makes a lot of sense, and I think I'll have to get up to speed on Eversource's demand response, that what the outlines of the program are, but I think that'll be pretty easy.
Yeah, for a project, it's a 50% match up to 200,000.
Okay,
So
that's good.
yeah, it is. The only issue right now is I have to check to make sure that a fire station would qualify for it. It has been emergency shelters, but Eversource is trying to expand it to fire stations. So I haven't heard if it's succeeded in that yet. Anyway, I look forward to that. And Rachida, the demand response program, this will be the first time a town has actually been accessing that. So breaking new ground, and I'm glad that you're on the other end of that.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I'm thrilled that you both are here because you're serving a need that we have, and it looks like it's a great match for both of you and us. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce.
Mhm.
I'll look forward to working with you on that.
I'll be in the second week of September for some committee meetings. Maybe we can make an appointment.
Oh, sure.
Oh, hi, Joel.
Hi, I'm delighted that both of you are here, and I'm very excited to hear your focus on communities, and that you have experience and your perspective on it. So welcome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And as Bill and Rachida are learning their acronyms, MOEC chair is the Member Outreach and Engagement Committee. So Joellen chairs that committee and works closely with the member services team on all things member engagement. And I think you're also on the project program committee, Joellen? Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
We'll be talking a lot.
Yep. Bill or Rachida, were there any other sort of comments or things you wanted to share with the membership?
Well, like the project that Bruce brought up, I'm happy to work with any of the communities on similar projects, both in helping access the Eversource program, or if it's Unitil or the co-op, and then working on the economics so that you can justify the investment and kind of prioritize where you're taking these funds and deploying them so that they bring the most value to your communities. So
Yeah, I can add to that. I have experience in grants, so I'm not very familiar with this specific program, but I've filed a number of grants applications. I'm very familiar with cost sharing and all federal compliance basis. So I'm happy to take a look at any if needed. So
Excellent. All right. Well, it is a beautiful summer Friday, so we don't need to hold folks too long if there's no further questions or comments. But I appreciate people coming and the discussion that we had, and I'm very excited to have Bill and Rachida on the team, as are the rest of the staff. So, yeah, hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.